Now, I'm excited about historical facts. Tell me about the historical context that you'd like to bring to the conversation.
So when I was writing The Care and Feeding of Waspish Widows, which is set in 1820, which is this big year of mass protest in Britain, and a lot of the people protesting weren't even eligible to vote. It was a lot of women and it was a lot of lower class people who just had strong feelings about political structures and events and wanted to make those opinions known however they could. This was just after the Peterloo massacre, so people protesting for working conditions and the rights of the lower classes had been literally shot by the militia. And there was a lot of restrictions and limitations on what people could and could not print and could not buy and sell and read. This is when you had booksellers like Robert Carlyle actually going to prison for printing seditious material, criticizing the political institutions of the time. You would have militia people sent in to literally wreck up bookshops and look for, radical political materials and illegal things. You had taxes on the price of paper that meant a lot of small pamphleteers were just immediately put out of business because they couldn't afford to pay to print the materials that they'd been printing, which is the same kind of soft censorship we're seeing with library purchases right now. And there's actually a lot of historical romances that happen around these particular restrictions. We like to think that the modern day is always more progressive than the past, but it's really wild to go back into some of this history and see one of the things they didn't want people printing was tracts about universal suffrage, so everybody should get a vote. That was considered very scandalous and left-wing and radical. And women shouldn't get the vote, and free love, which happened in the Regency. There were multiple people arguing that we should do away with all sexual stigma and people should be able to sleep with whoever they want. And the government was clamping down on that as obscene. And, if they'd used the phrase hardcore pornography at the time, they would have absolutely been putting it on those books. And so you have a lot of resistance that has to exist kind of on the margins of the legal system. And it's really fascinating and it's a really good draw for romance because there's so much tension and there's so much just story possibility around this. So, Care and Feeding of Waspish Widows is all about a printer and engraver who meets a beekeeper, and it's all about political change in this one small town where the beekeeper lives. And so it's this very friends to lovers. Well, these big protests are happening and what effects they have on the lives of the people in this one town. So it's not
Mm.
just who's in charge at the parliament level or the royalty level. It's what are we doing in our local communities? Who's trying to change things? Who's attacking their neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. You've also got Annick Trent's, which is
Mm.
a sapphic historical romance about a seditious reading club in a pub in London. And so you have this housemaid whose friend has been arrested as part of this crackdown on this political reading club that happens in a tavern. And in order to exonerate her friend, she needs testimony from another woman, and they end up slowly falling in love in light of this complex political sphere where it's literally illegal to be caught reading some of these materials.
Yeah.
And for all that, it's a wonderfully dread-free romance. So it's really on the ground kind of stakes. It's working class Regency, and it's charming as all get out. It's absolutely wonderful. Rose Lerner's Lively St. Lemiston series starts with a newspaperman's widow who starts up the press again, and the son of a local political family who starts writing with her. He's got an injury from Waterloo. He's got some trauma. His mom is causing political trouble in the town, and that's wonderful. And that kicks off her whole small town Regency politics series, which is great. For other queer romances, you've got KJ Charles' Unfit to Print and Will Darling Adventures, where he runs a bookshop with some illicit material in, I want to say, the 1920s with spies
Mm.
and his like dealing with his experiences from the war and the shady spy he falls in love with over the course of three very complicated murderous books. On the American side of things, we've got Alyssa Cole's A Hope Divided, which is the
Mm.
second in her Civil War spy trilogy about black spies who are spying for the Union during the Civil War. And this one is a black herbalist in a slave state. And she's hiding an escaped Union soldier in the attic. And because they can't be overheard, they start writing letters back and forth to one another and discussing like philosophical books. And It's just so beautiful. So they're sitting just on other side of the wall, slipping notes to one another so they can communicate, and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, I think that was my first Alyssa Cole book, and I was like, oh, wow.
It's so good. That whole trilogy just floors me. Like,
Yes, yes.
and the last one is also newspaper based, and it's Courtney. Oh, and I say that, and then I forgot the actual title, but it's the Courtney Milan.
Suffragette scandal?
That's a really good one. One of the reasons why I love the suffragette scandal is because it's it's more hopeful. It's not just about the embattled nature. It's about hope being a muscle that you exercise. There's a really great metaphor for small scale achievable protest in there that's really I find it very refreshing and it gives me I don't know. It's like a little warm hug you can carry around with you, that book.